And good evening. It is the eve of the winter solstice, which is an awesome thing. Those of us in the northern hemisphere have been losing light on a daily basis since the summer solstice. And now we are going to start seeing an increase in light. The days will grow longer and the shadows will take on a different tone, and overall we'll be basking in that wonderful, brilliant white light that we discovered is waiting for us with the solstice. So, and this was a very important time for tribal peoples throughout the world. We have a lot of celebrations that are zeroing in on this time of the year. We've got Kwanzaa, and we have Christmas, and Hanukkah, and all of these different celebrations tell us a story about how light defeats darkness. And that's what A Course in Miracles is all about. It's all about the fact that light is about to overwhelm darkness, and we'll see the expansion of the light in all directions. And for those of you joining me on this magical journey, that's exactly what we're reading about and getting ready to experience when we're doing our work with A Course in Miracles. It's all about the expansion of life, and that coming into an era where the darkness and the fear and all of the elements that cause us to live a diminished life start to evaporate in our lives. So welcome, welcome, welcome. And for those of you who are interested in more information on A Course in Miracles, you can always go to my website at www.themiraclewithin.org. And there's a pretty concise amount of information there that you can share, you can enjoy. So anyway, I hope that this video is recording appropriately, properly, because I've had, it's my second start on tonight's video. Sometimes things get a little bit glitchy in Cyberland. And we're going to look at this season as presented to us in A Course in Miracles. And I am reading now from section 15, chapter 15, Christmas as the End of Sacrifice. So in this 11th part, this 11th element in this particular chapter, and the second paragraph, it reads, "The sign of Christmas is a star, a light in darkness. See it not outside yourself, but shining in the heaven within, and accept it as a sign the time of Christ has come. He comes demanding nothing. No sacrifice of any kind of any one is asked by him. In his presence, the whole idea of sacrifice loses all meaning, for he is host to God, and you need but invite him in who is there already." So that's an interesting kind of set of images, the recognition that nothing was ever lost. So we're not down here stumbling around searching for that spark that dwells within us. We may be willfully overlooking it and listening to our ego and allowing the ego to misdirect us. But the truth is, our divinity has never left us. And the real trick in the midst of all of this is to not only see the divinity that exists within us, but to be able to perceive it in those around us. Because that's really the only way that A Course in Miracles can work, or that the process itself, even apart from A Course in Miracles, can function. In other words, if you are not able to perceive that element of the Christ within those people around you, even if they're nasty, rotten, ugly, malicious individuals by the judgment of the ego, then that will be something that you can't fully encompass within your own inner vision. So in order for you to be able to see the Christ in others, and for you to be able to see the Christ in yourself, you have to get beyond the ego's constant need to judge. So it says, and you need but invite him in who is there already, by recognizing that his host is one, and no thought alien to his oneness can abide in him there. And again, this is kind of a challenging idea, because what the Course is explaining to us is that in truth, all shadows of duality are eliminated. So the light is so bright that emanates from the truth, that emanates from God itself, that it will eventually, in everybody's mind, come to that place where it obliterates the shadows of a belief in any kind of separation. So what a magnificent concept that is presented to us in this early part of this dialogue about the return of light and the star in the midst of darkness that gives us that simple message that goes beyond a hope. It is an assurance that the Christ within is going to eventually turn into this brilliant light that will eradicate all of the shadows in our minds. And ultimately, we will arrive at a place where we realize there is nothing but God. There is no us and God. There is no somebody else and God. We finally get to that point where we understand that we are one with God and there is no distinction between God and us. So this is a very exciting idea. As the days grow longer, as we get more and more vibrance from the sun into our lives, we arrive at a point where we begin to comprehend the true magnificence of who we actually are. So you may have crafted an identity. You may have assigned yourself a name and a role in life and a status and all of these different ideas that reinforce your belief in separation. But ultimately, somewhere in the timeline, somewhere in the future, you will come to the complete understanding that you never really existed as this person that you imagine yourself to be. So talk about a gift. This is truly the gift of the season. So, it's important to buy things for the children in your family and things for the people that you love and to get into the holiday spirit. But more importantly, imagine yourself living in that status where you are able to perceive the sacred nature of everybody around you, and you can offer them that gift as a part of the holiday season. That's pretty amazing and pretty magnificent. Love must be total to give him welcome. Another interesting idea. So you can't withhold love from any individual that crosses your path. You have to be completely invested. For the presence of holiness creates the holiness that surrounds it. So love is surrounded by holiness. Love is sacred. And obviously, our misinterpretations, our misunderstandings of what love is may create a rather grotesque experience, but the truth is, true love is celestial. True love, in truth, is actually the manifestation of God, the presence and activity of God. So when you open your heart and extend love in its purest form, you are literally sharing God with those around you. And that's another very powerful concept. I mean, we always diminish ourselves, and we're always embracing this idea of woe is me and poor little me, and I can't, step up that next notch on the rungs of the ladder. But the truth is if you will give a little bit of license to the Holy Spirit, the truth within you, that presence and activity of love will come forth from you as a natural process. You'll discover that you're not able to suppress it because it is a flow from that which is omnipotent, and it will move through you and affect the world around you. So what a gift, what a set of images that are being presented to us as we're advancing closer and closer toward this Christmas season. No fear can touch the host who cradles God in the time of Christ, for the host is as holy as the perfect innocence which he protects, and whose power protects him. So there we're getting a little bit of an image around the idea of the Christ child. And, we are always alert to protect the lives of the children around us, the babies, the infants, the toddlers, and hopefully even the teenagers and the young adults. Those of us who are more mature are obliged to always be alert to the sacredness of the innocence that exists in this world. And that innocence ultimately cannot be corrupted. And there may be the illusion of that. There may be the appearance of darkness and fear and anger and all of the other aspects of the attacks we make on each other in this physical realm. But the truth is, the innocence of that baby in a manger, the innocence of that baby in Africa right now, or Asia, or Mexico, or Kentucky, or South America, that innocence, that purity, that beauty is a aspect that can never be lost, even as we grow into ourselves, even as we mature and take on these beliefs of having been corrupted by the world we inhabit. The truth is, if we can bring ourselves to solitude and silence in that sacred place, we will discover within ourselves the beauty and the magnificence and this amazing process that is constantly unfolding from within us. So that child in that manger exists within your heart and mind and soul. And that's what the season is all about, is to remind us that the children around us are sacred treasures. And when we go a little bit further with that thought, we understand that we are our sacred treasures also, the we that we don't always engage in, the we that we reject 99% of the time because it's comfortable to attack those around us. We can justify attack in so many ways. We can say, oh, this guy came over and shot my dog, so I'm going to go over and burn his house down. And it does get that violent. It gets hideous. It gets horrible. And we don't need to embrace that. There is a part of us that is always waiting at the threshold to emerge. And within that emergence, there is this process of forgiveness that actually clears the deck. It actually makes your life functional. It makes your life rewarding. It makes your life worthy of who you truly are. And when we can go out into the world and even briefly for a few seconds, a few minutes, maybe even an hour out of the day, live in that state of consciousness and not glare at people and look for ways to get even with people. then we are embracing the presence of the Christ that dwells within us. So there's some really beautiful ideas that the Course gives to us. And, you know, that's the whole point of what we're doing here in our study of the Course, is learning how to reclaim our personal truth. Okay, the next little section here gives us, this Christmas, give the Holy Spirit everything that would hurt you. That's an interesting idea. See, we carry our wounds with us, and we make them sacred to us. Oh, this person broke my heart, or tore up my lawn, or burned down my house 25 years ago, and I'll never forget that. I can never let go of that. And as we hold on to these ancient sources of incompleteness, and that's what they are. They are testimony to the idea that, oh, I'm vulnerable. I can be hurt. I can be maimed. See, and that's the ego's litany, because the body most assuredly can be maimed, but you are not your body. You are spirit. You are eternal. So you can give up all of these ancient hatreds that you've been carrying around for so long, and go out into the world and be a blessing and a healing to everybody around you. Let yourself be healed completely, that you may join with him in healing. And let us celebrate our release together by releasing everyone with us. So this is what the idea of forgiving the world is based on. The idea of being able to look at all the atrocities that highlight human history. And there was never a time in human history when we didn't have atrocities happening somewhere. We have to be able to look beyond those and recognize that all that is real is eternal. And these incidents, even though they may have happened as a blip in time, they ended. They came to conclusion. They ceased to be. So none of these things have any substance other than a memory. And that memory is what can contain us and hold us back from truth. Let yourself be healed completely. That's the theme right now. Leave nothing behind, for release is total, and when you have accepted it with me, and that's Jesus, who is the narrator of the Course, you will give it with me. So Jesus was saying, I gave it over. I was able to surrender it. I was able to let go of it and let the Holy Spirit clear this contamination out of my consciousness. All pain and sacrifice and littleness will disappear in our relationship, which is as innocent as our relationship with our Father and as powerful. Pain will be brought to us and disappear in our presence. So this is how we're going to have an effect on the world around us. When we actually step up and allow ourselves to experience that sacred union with Jesus, the character of Jesus, the identity of Jesus, we are able to allow that process of healing to occur. And you're never going to heal yourself by yourself on your own. That's what creates the wounded healer that is dialogued about in A Course in Miracles. We have to surrender our belief that we as a separate entity have any power whatsoever, because we don't. All we have is the power of chaos, the power of creating images in our mind that are reflected in the world around us that come back and bite us in the ass over and over and over again. And that is the core of all human suffering. All human suffering comes from within the human experience. God did not create that, and God has no desire to observe its child experiencing that. You know, there's a passage in the New Testament where Jesus remarks, it gives God no great pleasure to see man suffer. And that is very, very true. God is not aware of our actual individual points of suffering, but God is aware that there is something wrong. And that's why this whole process of the Holy Spirit and the atonement was laid in our path, is because we can step out of this separation and reclaim our truth, reclaim our holiness, reclaim the sacred aspects in our lives. So, you who believe that sacrifice is love must learn that sacrifice is separation from love. So God doesn't want you to crawl on your hands and knees up the trail to Golgotha and get nailed to a cross. That's not the journey that God has laid out for you. Jesus already went through that on our behalf. He allowed that to occur so that we would be able to see that we can transcend the body. We can transcend the idea of death. We can transcend the idea of being a victim. So that's what this journey really is all about, that is sparked on this very sacred day when the light begins to expand, when we attain that point of the recognition that all of this is happening within our mind, has nothing to do with what's going on externally in the world that we are perceiving. The truth lies in, and that's where you have to go to have that experience of communion with truth. Guilt is the condition of sacrifice, as peace is the condition for the awareness of your relationship with God. So if you are at peace, even if it's just for a minute or two throughout the day, if you experience those little points in your timeline during the day, when you're no longer agitated, when you're no longer thinking, when you're no longer engaged, you're just at peace. You can feel it surrounding you. You can feel it supporting you. You can feel it coming up from the ground like an oasis, like a bubbling fountain. That is what you want to aspire to stay in a state of. That's where you want to go with all of your trials and tribulations. Take them to the doorstep where you can enter into that union with the divine, and you can have that experience of peace that passeth understanding. It's a peace that wells up out of a place so deeply within you and so completely forgotten by you that the first few times you experience it, you find it to be quite astonishing. Through guilt, you exclude your father and your brothers from yourself. Through peace, you invite them back, realizing that they are where your invitation bids them be. So this is all up to you. You know, we always are looking for a Santa Claus. We want God to be Santa Claus and come in and bring us presents and do wonderful things for us. And that's really absurd, because we're the ones who are in control of that. So if you're walking around saying, well, God didn't give me any money, or God didn't give me a place to live, or God didn't feed me, that's only because you made that decision to exclude yourself from that state of grace that we all exist in. So the more you are holding on to the idea of me, this little tiny self, this fractured ego that is plundering the world and receiving nothing in return, to that degree, you are omitting yourself from the grace of God. You are no longer at the table where you can dine with your brothers and sisters. Who can perceive part of himself as loathsome and live within himself in peace? So again, if you're seeing yourself as this broken idol that you created to worship, then you're missing the banquet. You're missing the whole thing. And who can try to resolve the conflict of heaven and hell in him by casting heaven out and giving it the attributes of hell, without experiencing himself as incomplete and lonely? So it's a pretty dire set of images that we're given here about who we are and what we imagine ourselves to be. So we are moving into a period here where there is going to be multiple opportunities, because that's the beauty of the way A Course in Miracles works, and the Holy Spirit works, and the presence of Jesus in your world works, is that there are connections that are created. Sometimes you have a real strong sense, oh, this meeting with this person was destiny. And it was, because throughout our days, throughout our life, there are multiple opportunities that the Holy Spirit brings into our realm of experience where we can step back, take a deep breath, reclaim the truth of who we are, re-embrace the presence of Christ within us, and forgive those around us, forgive the circumstances, forgive the illusion that we have generated by all of our fear thinking and all of our anger thinking and all of the darkness that we are trying to hold on to. But ultimately, we will surrender. So, the Jews do a bang-up job with this period, and so do the people in India with Diwali, with lighting of candles. And then you get to some of the Orthodox Christian faiths, and you see that also, lighting the candles and sharing the light. And that brings us back to the idea that Buddha offered us before Jesus came into this world, which is the idea that you can light 1,000 candles from your candle and not diminish your candle at all. So there you are. We are at this point where you can go out and bring light into all of the different dark corners of the world you inhabit. There are multiple opportunities that the Holy Spirit will bring to you throughout this season and throughout your life. It doesn't just start and stop with a solstice. This is an ongoing journey. You can always make a decision to release the anger, to change your mind, to remove yourself from attacking those around you, and to exercise forgiveness. And every time you do that, the person that you are actually forgiving in the midst of this journey, as paradoxical as it may seem, is in truth yourself. There cannot be any grudges, any judgments held against another that does not directly boomerang back around. So all of your judgments, all of your anger, all of your frustration, all of these disoriented and warped thoughts that you have about other people are really a reflection of what you truly believe yourself to be. So this is going to be a great Christmas season for a lot of people that I interact with, and I plan to get out there and move around and spread that forgiveness magic as far as I can possibly push it. I would encourage you to do the same. May your holiday be sacred, and may all of your relationships be sanctified in the joy and the love of God. And just get out there and share the love and pass the love around. If you just start with that basic fundamental first step, you don't have to, go out with the idea of, I've read the book and I'm fully enlightened and now I'm going to change the world. All you have to do is to share a little bit of love every opportunity that you get. And once you start doing that, once the love starts moving, it's like a river. It'll gain speed. It'll gain width and breadth and depth. on its way back down to the ocean. And the ocean refuses no river. So you can join me there in the ocean on Christmas Eve and get out there, share the love, pass the love around, and we'll reconvene in 1 week when we'll be looking at starting a new year and what the most optimal program might be for that. So we'll be talking to you soon.